you, Stefan. Now, 43% of you said that the metaverse was a mystery to you. I'm hoping that by the end of this session, we can get that up to 100. It was also a trick question because the answer is all three. I'm going to spend the next 15 or 16 minutes unpacking the metahype around Web3, NFTs, and the metaverse. But I'm going to start by going back in time because I think as humans, we often don't learn from history. And I'm going to be cruel. I'm going to share with you a clip of Steve Ballmer, the then global CEO of Microsoft. Steve Jobs has just unveiled the iPhone. It's 2007, and Steve Ballmer is asked at a conference, what does he think?
Steve, let me ask you about the iPhone and the Zune, if I may. The Zune was getting some traction, then Steve Jobs goes to Macworld, and he pulls out this iPhone. What was your first reaction when you saw that?
$500 fully subsidized with a plan? I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine.
So obviously, that's aged pretty well, but I want to make 3 points. The first flippant one is be careful what you say at conferences because it's all videoed now, and someone will do this in 15 years to you. The second one is when he said, he looked stupid today, when he said that most people in the world thought he was right. You know, it's 2007, Apple have had a huge flop with the Newton. You know, we forget 2004, Apple's market cap was only 8 billion, Microsoft were the dominant company in the world. But I think the most important point, and the really key one as we dig into this subject today, is that actually when the iPhone was launched, it wasn't that great. You know, it was a phone with a music player and a camera. What made it amazing was the ecosystem of apps that grew up around it. So the fact that you could book an Uber, navigate on Google Maps, email anyone from your pocket, buy stuff on Amazon, watch videos. Basically, you could do every single thing you wanted to do in the world out of your pocket. And that's my kind of key overriding thought behind this session, which is it is the ecosystem that grows up around this, which is going to dictate, is this just like a few 100 million gamers sitting on their couches with VR headsets on, or is it the single most important technological revolution of the 21st century? Now, I wrote a blog post at the start of the year when we changed name, entitled, "The Metaverse is a giant overhyped nothing burger with no future." And that is clearly a clickbait headline. It's not exactly what I think. But the serious point within it, if you look at the graphic on the left, you know, the hype behind this is like nothing we've ever seen before. And it's caused, you know, the New York Times to say, is the metaverse just marketing? And I think, you know, Connie and Luis asked me to do a presentation on the future about a year and a half ago at Unilever. And when I was talking about the metaverse, I was trying to find examples of stuff that people had done, and there weren't any. There was virtually nothing. This is literally just the last week, some of the biggest brands and companies in the world announcing what they're doing in the metaverse with NFTs and in Web3. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's like 10 things happened last night, you know, between getting up and doing this speech. But I think the one thing I would say for the cynics in the room, A, you may be right, but B, you personally may not think this is going to be a big thing, but the world's biggest companies are obsessively trying to make it that. So the world's biggest media company, Facebook, has changed its name to Meta. The world's biggest or second biggest company on the day, Microsoft, has said it's the future of work and have bought Activision in the single biggest deal in the history of technology. The world's biggest sports company has said it's the future of sport and have bought the #1 virtual sneaker producer, Artifact. The world's biggest gaming company, Electronic Arts, has said it's the future of gaming, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And meanwhile, the banks are trying to outdo themselves to say how big it is. Back in December, it was only 800 billion. In February, it was 1 trillion. Then suddenly, Morgan Stanley in February also said it was 8 trillion. And then Citibank have said, no, it's actually 13 trillion. So I think maybe a conclusion from the WFA is the WFA believes it's going to be a 20 trillion market. That could be a good soundbite for you. And let's have a quick look at what's going on in the worlds of virtual culture, NFTs, and the metaverse. And I think my overriding point, the experience today is really crap. It is one of the hardest technologies we have ever come across. And as we all know, when technology is hard, people don't get into it. But we are also at the Newton or Palm Pilot stage. Many of us in this room are old enough to have owned one of these. They were terrible. We bought them because, oh, this is great. And then you kind of went, why do I need that? And you put it to one side. But someone will come along and do what Steve Jobs did and invent the iPhone, and the world will change. Now, the first sort of big discussion around metaverse when it was really getting on the radar was in the Apple versus Epic Fortnite court case. And Epic's view was like, Apple can't have 30% of our App Store sales because we're not a real world company, we're a metaverse company. And the court reporter said, well, what's one of those? What's the metaverse? It's a virtual world for socializing and entertainment. And then we saw a string of NFTs being sold for quite ridiculously large sums of money. So Jack Dorsey sold his first ever tweet for $2.9 million. Tim Berners-Lee sold the source code for the World Wide Web for $5.4 million. And at the other end of the spectrum, a 12-year-old boy in the UK made £290,000 out of whale art NFTs. But it's actually a pretty incredibly fast-growing and giant economy, and it's all underpinned by NFTs. And I think many of you will know this case. The reason I share it is I think it was the first time we kind of went, actually, something's going on here. So the NBA teamed up with Dapper Labs. They created NBA Top Shots. That was basically the ability to buy an NFT of a video clip of a Steph Curry three-pointer or a LeBron James dunk. You can watch these on YouTube tomorrow. You do not need to own these. So why were people spending $250,000, $300,000 to buy something that we can all go and look at YouTube now? The answer is because they think it's got inherent value in the future. Why buy an Andy Warhol painting? You can have a postcard, you can put a poster on your wall, you can go and look at it on the internet. And the reason is because people think it has a value. Now, we'll see if they are right, but that's why they're doing it. And when you actually look at the numbers around this, and CryptoSlam do the rankings of sales in NFTs, this is from over a year ago. In the NBA, we're doing pretty well at the top, $600 million of sales of NFTs. Fast forward a year, this is a couple of weeks old now. The NBA is still doing quite well, almost up to $1 billion. Axie Infinity, $4 billion in under 12 months. CryptoPunks, $2 billion. Meebits, $1.7 billion. It's amazing the speed and scale at which this is moving. And then last week, Bored Ape, CryptoPunks, and Meebits all came together. So you have a franchise now under Yuga Labs who have done over $4 billion in NFT sales in less than 12 months. Gaming culture is driving culture. The biggest global events now take place in game. One I would say with the king of the metaverse from a music perspective is Snoop Dogg. He did $45 million of NFT sales with his Stash NFTs, and he's just released his new music video, which of course is filmed entirely in the metaverse.
I think it's time for another one. Yeah. Snoop Dogg.
And I think, I'm on stage in Athens talking about the metaverse to 600 marketeers and using a Snoop Dogg video done in the metaverse. I think this is kind of the pinnacle of my career, without a doubt. Travis Scott's Fortnite concert, 45 million viewers. Lil Nas Roblox, 33 million.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype.
That was just to wake you up. And to wake you up to the point that, I think many people dismiss gaming as niche. There are almost 3 billion people gaming today, and that's just going to keep going up and up with each passing generation. And we talk about Microsoft's Activision deal because it's so big, and we kind of forget, well, Minecraft has gone past 1 trillion views on YouTube. Roblox, one of my personal favorite companies, 40, 50 billion market cap. But more importantly, 40 million games have been created in Roblox. And 1 in 2, so 50% of all kids under 18 in the US are on Roblox. So what should you be doing with this brave new world? Being a bit cruel, not this. So don't just turn your product into an NFT and put it on OpenSea and sell it. And these brands should all be applauded for getting in early, but it's like, why would someone want to buy an NFT of toilet roll? We can debate that. And don't open up spaces that are sad and lonely. I think this sums up many of the spaces. Welcome to our brand experience on the metaverse. I'm sure someone will show up now. But I think more like this, and what we are starting to see is some really great examples. So Gap selling a $415 NFT hoodie, which gives you access to a real one when you go in store. Budweiser did 1,936 cans, and that was a really successful program. Actually, much more interestingly was what they did with Nouns. So the Nouns Collective had bought the glasses Noun for $394,000. They allowed Budweiser to use it for free and to have it as long as they put it into their Super Bowl commercial and turned their Twitter profile pic to the glasses Noun. Total role reversal, like a brand in the old world would have had to pay money to get that thing, and now they get usage for free. You can understand why in the car market, and particularly the used car market, having an NFT which gives full ownership on the blockchain, full historical ownership on the blockchain of a car could be a really compelling thing. You know, you're starting to see a lot of brands experiment inside Roblox. So Vans is doing skateboarding world. Ralph Lauren doing a bunch of stuff, whether it's their digital fashion collection or their collab with a Korean K-pop band, which was actually very successful for them. And I think one of the questions to ask today is how would you change your marketing if you set out to link your virtual and your physical assets? Nike have done Nike Land on Roblox, but it's also been put into their Nike store in New York. So you go in, there's an entire floor dedicated to it, there's AR glasses. You can actually be involved in both of the spaces. Beats have dropped the new Cohen Frost Cosmophones in Roblox, and my kids tell me that Cohen Frost is super cool. Coachella giving or selling lifetime access to Coachella as an NFT. Again, if you like Coachella, you can understand why that's going to have value over time. And I think, you know, one of the big themes of this conference is sustainability and purpose. And, you know, I'm convinced that Web3 and the metaverse will drive brand purpose. We're already seeing examples of this. You know, the Ukrainian flag was sold as an NFT for, in the end, over $7 million. You know, MAC Cosmetics and sustainability around the blockchain is a big deal, and that's why Polygon are getting more and more traction, because their whole thing is we're the most sustainable blockchain, and our footprint is only the same as 122 passenger cars being driven. But MAC releasing Keith Haring NFTs to support youth AIDS, L'Oreal doing NFTs to support their Women of Worth program, Stella Artois and Water.org, Balmain and Barbie around DEI and black models, Bacardi selling NFTs that actually fund black-owned bars. So you've got all of this going on, but obviously this whole world creates massive new challenges. For those of you who were in my session yesterday, it was the depressing side of the metaverse and Web3 and all the problems, and obviously, you know, sustainability and footprint is one, harassment and behavior is another. So too are trademarks and privacy. You know, Hermes got involved in shutting down the Meta Birkins that an artist had decided to create, and they won the battle in the court of law, but, you know, did they win the battle of the court of human opinion in Web3? And this one is particularly fascinating. Nike and StockX, who historically have kind of been big collaborators, because StockX has probably driven up the value of Nike sneakers, are in a lawsuit, and Nike is going after them because they created NFTs of the sneakers, and StockX is saying it's meritless, and Nike doesn't understand NFTs. So we will see where that plays out. But it's also why you're seeing all of the world's big companies and brands starting to take out their trademarks in the NFT space. Personal identity is becoming increasingly digital. So a Dionysus handbag from Gucci actually sold for more in the metaverse than it did in the real world.
Very cute. It's kind of like, I feel like I'm at a museum. Wait, can I touch some of these? Oh my gosh, I can. Look, it's limited.
You know, Gucci have been one of the pioneers of selling virtual products. Artifact, for me, were like the geniuses of it, and obviously been bought by Nike. And I think the other thing you're going to see an avalanche of in the next 12 months is all the big platforms are working on their avatar products. So you're going to see huge numbers of avatar products launched. And they're also working, and Twitter have already done it, on allowing you to put an NFT as your profile pic. And I think the other thing that's going on is there's a whole new generation of fashion designers who are now working in code, not cloth. You can buy you know, these things as virtual only. Zara have just launched their first ever meta collection. Dolce & Gabbana have put out a $300,000 tiara that you can only wear in the metaverse. Target are selling Roblox t-shirts, but you also get one for your avatar. And, you know, last week was Metaverse Fashion Week. My joke is that 64 brands got involved in Metaverse Fashion Week, and 64 people showed up to Metaverse Fashion Week. This is what it looked like. But I think it's all about experimenting and learning, and, you know, I'm not criticizing it because we're very much at the start of something. The global virtual goods market is estimated to be worth $189 billion by 2025. Personally, I think it's going to be dramatically more than that. So, in wrapping up, I'm going to take you into the metaverse. I thought it would be appropriate to end talking about the future inside Roblox. So putting my hat on so I look a bit more like my avatar. So here we go into the metaverse. You see up on the left, Snow Crash. That's the book where the word metaverse comes from. Across the road, you'll see our offices. Be careful to not get run over. I should probably look a bit more carefully next time. But I'm going to go through 7 points of what I think the future holds. And before I do that, just 2 setups. Firstly, don't forget, trillion-dollar companies think this is the future. So whatever you personally think, you probably corporately need to have a strategy. And secondly, anybody who tells you they know what's going to happen is lying, me included. We have no idea. It's going to be an amazing decade, but we really have no idea how it's going to play out. And so anybody who says they do know, you should buy them a Pinocchio NFT. So into the 7 points. Firstly, I think the platforms of Web 3 are unlikely to be the platforms of Web 2. Many of us remember Web 1. Who were the big companies? It was Netscape, it was AOL, it was Yahoo, it was MySpace. When was the last time we talked about them? So it is unlikely that the big platforms of Web 3 are going to be the big platforms of Web 2, odd as that may seem today. Secondly, I think the first $10 trillion company is going to come out of the metaverse. It wasn't so long ago we were asking, Apple, we were asking who was going to be the first $1 trillion company, and obviously Apple got there first. And then literally they hit 3 trillion. I think the first 10 trillion company comes out of this space. And I think it does so producing glasses. I think the hardware player of this space will be the one that wins. We'll see the death of the mobile phone and the dawn of glasses. We will think it's super odd that there was a time where we had to use one of our hands to do this and tap on this thing. Now, I hear you say, yes, but Google Glasses were really terrible and Snap aren't that much better. I go back to, Palm Pilots weren't great and nor were Newtons. And you can just imagine that the ability to have reality, to be in a room like this and look at someone you know, but you can't remember them, and LinkedIn pops up and tells you who it is, or to have immersive experiences. Fourthly, the world's most valuable luxury brand will be virtual, and it will be purpose-driven. If you're spending more and more of your time in virtual worlds, it's logical, and we're already starting to see this happen, that you would want to spend your money on the luxury brands from those spaces. I made this point before, the metaverse will turbocharge brand purpose, and I've showed a bunch of examples that are already starting to happen. Stefan mentioned my book. This is actually the main Venn diagram from the book 12, 13 years ago. Making money and doing good didn't need to sit in separate worlds. And I think the metaverse can sit at the intersection of this. And almost if in the 20th century we built brands through TV advertising, in the 21st century, we'll build brands through our behavior in the metaverse and through the virtual products we sell in the metaverse that do good in the real world. People are going to seek increasingly rare and unique ways to represent themselves in these new spaces. And obviously, there's a whole bunch of issues that will come with that too. But as I said, we're going to see the avatar avalanche. And finally, and this is the only one of the 7 points I'm absolutely convinced of. I think the other 6 we'll see, but this one I am totally convinced of, is that the future lies at the intersection of the real world, the social world, and the virtual world. And it's not about some dystopian future where we're only living virtually, nor is it about this virtual world is nonsense and will all go away. We spent the last 10 years as marketeers learning how do you market at the intersection of the real world and the social media world. And we're going to spend the next 10 years working out how do we market at the intersection of the real world, the social media world, and the virtual world. Thank you very much.